Awesome. Thank you so much.
Ask for something? Is it okay? Is it vacant easy to show? Is it available now to show?
One side is has a tenant, but the 32 side is vacant and easy to show.
Excellent. It's in showing time? All right. Thank you, ma'am. I'll show it for you.
Awesome. Thanks. So our guest today is somebody, when Jeffrey saw he was going to be out of town, he's like, oh no, and like almost wanted to reschedule because he was so excited she was here. I've been researching and studying. We were very excited to have you. Michelle Johnston, she came to us as a professor to Loyola in 1999, became a distinguished professor, has written 2 books now, and we will talk through the differences of those. But we are thrilled to have you. She also has a podcast that ranks in the top 10%, and so please come on up.
Thank God for you. Hey, y'all. What a fun group. I study connection, and this is the epitome of beautiful connection right here. What you all do in the morning, your enthusiasm, your authenticity, your conversation with each other, your lifting one another up. I mean, this is really cool. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's
cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Affirmation is a good way to start.
This was cool. I wanted to join. I either wanted to buy a house or be a part of you. Something. I'm going to walk away with something.
Well, we know
that's expensive, I'm sure.
We know a good agent. So just give us a little rundown on your background. How did you arrive to this moment?
Yeah. So I was recruited to New Orleans for a consulting firm when I was getting my master's degree at Auburn. I was 22 years old. I'll never forget. I arrived that summer, and I immediately gained 5 pounds. My hair became something that I'd never seen before, ever. Frizz everywhere. My face broke out. I was constantly sweating, and I called my family, and I said, I have fallen in love. And they said, with whom? I said, with New Orleans, and I've been here ever since. I had to go back to Auburn to finish my master's, and then I had to go to LSU to get my PhD, but I could not wait to get back to this city. And when I came back, I always thought that I would stay at this consulting firm, and the year now at this time is about 1999.
Okay.
And then the consulting firm left the city. I was like, who would ever leave this city? And at the time, I was teaching a class at Loyola, business communication. The dean came to me and said, we want you to become a full-time faculty member. Are you interested? And I said, sure. And then Jeffrey was one of my students. And that's how this all came to be.
He told me that, but I was like,
he was one of
it's
my,
impossible age-wise.
Isn't that crazy? I know. It's crazy. He was fantastic.
And this was for his MBA, and so you're a professor in management, or
yes.
You started that way, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So as a faculty member in New Orleans, you do what you have to do. Because, again, I didn't think I would be a faculty member. If you had asked me, I'd say, no way, I'm not an academic. That's not me. It works because I love the students. Right? And so I had my head down for years in this publisher parish thing, and you've got to jump through all these hoops like any person does in any organization. And so I get tenured, and then I realize, okay, I want to be an executive coach. And in 2001, when I was still my head down trying to earn tenure, there was an article in the New Yorker magazine that I pulled out and ripped out, and it's still in my filing cabinet at Loyola. And it profiled this man named Marshall Goldsmith, and he had invented executive coaching. This was in 2001, and I just remember reading this article thinking, someday when I make it, I want to be him. And so when I lifted my head up and had tenure and was in this chaired position and I had a little bit more flexibility, I became an executive coach. Fast forward a couple of years with my biggest client, Auctioner, and I coach a number of their executives. And so I'm in the audience, and who's the speaker but Marshall Goldsmith? And Marshall Goldsmith at the time said, I've just turned 70, and I just want to give back. I've earned as much money. He lives in the neighborhood with Taylor Swift and Reese Witherspoon in Nashville. He's earned all the money he could ever spend. He said, I would be fulfilled if I give back. So if you want to be mentored by me, let me know.
You're like,
ran home as fast as I could, sent an email. Hi, Marshall. I'm Michelle Johnston.
we just met, and here's a
Wait,
photo, just in
I
case you
didn't
forgot.
even meet him. I didn't even meet him. I didn't even have a photo. Like, I was just in your audience, and I would love to be mentored. And I waited and waited and waited, and I got rejected. The email came back, Michelle, thank you so much for your interest. I didn't expect so much interest in me. I've received 15,000 requests in 1 week from the president of the World Bank, from the president of Virgin, from the president of Amazon. So although you sound great, I was just this little professor at Loyola, right? How did I jump off a page? And that's what that lesson taught me, is I wasn't jumping off the page. I wasn't doing anything that differentiated me. So I used that as motivation. And I was in the process of writing my first book. And I decided, okay.
This was during COVID, correct?
I said, yeah, this was about 2019.
The seismic shift in leadership.
This is about 2019. And I'm writing this first book. And so it motivates me. I was like, damn it, I'm going to write this book. And I'm going to ask Marshall Goldsmith to not only be my mentor, but to write the foreword to it. So I loop back. He asked me to loop back in 6 months. I loop back in 2 years. Yep. I said, I have this book. I would love for you to write the foreword and let me know if you would be interested in being my mentor. This is so cool. So now it's lockdown. And I was supposed to publish this book on Connection during lockdown.
During lockdown.
March of 2020.
So you started it before you knew COVID was happening, 2019.
Correct. So I write this entire book on Connection, and it's supposed to be published. And I'm in lockdown, and I called my publisher. I said, I know you're dying to get this book out in the world and to make money. We all are. I cannot publish a book on Connection when the entire planet Earth is disconnected. No one's going to buy it, right?
Yeah.
I said, let me hold on. Let me go back and interview the leaders. And thankfully, they said, okay. So now I'm in my dining room, right, in my makeshift office without any doors, with this bizarro pandemic puppy that will not stop barking at me. My child's up, trying to learn homeschool, whatever. And I'm teaching my class, and that topic of the day was executive coaching. And I introduced them to Marshall Goldsmith, and one day he's going to be my executive mentor. He's going to teach me everything he knows, and da-da-da-da-da. I shut my computer, lift up my phone, and there's an incoming call from Marshall Goldsmith. And he said, Michelle, I just reviewed your manuscript. I looked at your website. I would love to be your mentor and write the foreword to your book. And that's how this all began.
That was the best COVID ever, yeah.
Best COVID ever. So he wrote the foreword to my first book, and I believe that's why this was an Amazon bestseller in 2022. And then, so then I'm nominated a couple years later I was nominated as a top thinker in the world. It's called Thinkers 50. And Marshall and I were in London at the gala. And we're drinking champagne. And we're listening to all the top thinkers in the world. And I was nominated, but I didn't win the award, and that's okay. I was there, right? And I was happy to be there. And as I'm listening to the top thinkers in the world talk about technology and how we're going to differentiate ourselves as leaders, how are we going to compete with something that totally is addictive and is creating this codependency? What are we going to do? And so every single one of these top thinkers said we have to lean in with heart and humanity. And I looked at Marshall and I said, that's a huge seismic shift. We need to write a book about that. I said, would you be my co-author? And I only asked him because I'd had 2 glasses of champagne. There's no way I would have had the courage he's the #1 executive coach in the world, #1 global thought leader, #1 everything in the world. And there's no way.
Let me just throw this out there.
There's no way, yeah. Right? And I'm like shaking, like, will you be my co-author? And he says yes. So I run back, this is in 2023, I run back to Loyola and said, I need a year sabbatical. Give me a year sabbatical. I'm about to write a book with Marshall Goldsmith. And this is the book that we just launched into the world.
And so this just came out in November 2025.
Yeah.
So from what I read was there was an influence of AI in the second book, and that was part of the shift of the two, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain some of that?
Yeah. Great question, Cody. So let's just, okay, how do I say this? I didn't see it or feel it with you all today at all. What you all have built is beautiful connection and camaraderie and collaboration, and you get together and you're doing it together and you can feel the energy in the room. This is what I'm advocating and recommending to others. What I'm seeing in my research is there are a lot of organizations that aren't doing these things that you're doing. And it's fully remote. They're not bringing their people together. And what I'm finding is there are employees who are holding on to their home office chairs, like, don't get me out of my home, don't get me out of my home, don't get me out of my home, but they're withering on the vine, withering on the vine. 1 in 5 of us globally are feeling disconnected, isolated, lonely, anxious, depressed. So the more and more and more, and I keep doing this is referring to my phone, right? It should no longer be called a phone. We don't talk on it. Maybe you all do. You all probably talk on it. Most people don't talk.
What? The gray-haired one in the back talks on
You
the
actually talk. Most people don't use their phones to talk. I call it now our pocket computers.
Yeah.
And it's creating such codependency, and that's not going away. We all know that is not going away. So the question is, what can we do differently as leaders? We must pivot. If we know that 1 in 5 of us is lonely, isolated, disconnected, and suffering, and yet this is not going away, what do we do differently? So Marshall and I came up with 7 shifts that we all need to take as humans, and mostly as leaders because we're both executive coaches, so that we can show up more human, we can focus on the relationships. It is all about relationships. And intentionally embed time in our calendar for me first, because I'm not going to be good at connecting with any of you all if I am empty, running on empty. So that's a huge shift, is in this world, we've got to put ourselves first so that then we can show up and be great with others. We have to shift our mindset from what, to who. Who do I get to engage with? Who do I get to interact with? Who do I get to influence today? Who do I get to connect with? So those are just 2 of the 7 shifts that we outlined in here.
I'll name all 7 for you,
Thank
right?
you, Cody.
And so we have perspective,
Perspective, which is from what to who.
priorities,
The most important who is you.
calendar,
Calendar, so that it prioritizes relationships,
meetings,
so that it creates dialogue and it's no longer one way,
conversations.
so that you ask more questions and talk less,
Love that. Language,
so that you use words that elevate and not minimize,
energy.
so that we can all be Hoda copy.
So which one do leaders get wrong first? Is it what you said about...
So we started with the shift in perspective. What Marshall and I see, we coach, and as a matter of fact, I just ran here from a breakfast meeting at the Westin with a CEO, amazing person from Finland, and he oversees all this terminal construction that's going on near Chalmette, all these $100 million investment. So
LNG in the ports. Yeah.
So I can't tell you his name. Really amazing individual. This new
Holly's
CEO.
from Chalmette. If you
Okay,
didn't-
no
if you
wonder.
couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Got it. And so he was talking about his $100 million investment in us in New Orleans, and he lives in London, and just this amazing CEO. And I learned so much in the hour and 15 minutes. And what we both talked about, he said, you know, Michelle, it's very lonely at the top when you're the CEO. I said, oh, I know. I mostly coach CEOs, and it is lonely at the top. He said, everybody's, kissing your ring because you're in that role. He said, and you can get really depressed because you wake up every day and you look at the what, all the tasks that you need to accomplish to continue moving the needle and pushing and driving your business. He said, what has helped me, and you can tell he just loves what he does, and he's such a connected, driven leader. He said, what helped me was your first chapter, because he gets coached also by Marshall. He said, is I then wake up every day and I look at my calendar and I said, who do I get to work with? Who do I get to make changes with? Who do I get to make a difference with? And that shift in perspective from what, which all felt like so much pressure on my shoulders, to the who has changed everything.
So for real estate agents, that's you're going into somebody's home, ability to change their lives in their next
Yes.
next chapter, right?
Yes.
Which is,
Yes.
which is pretty different than I have to go do a listing presentation today or a CMA or a task like that. But we kind of feel like there's a dichotomy of...
I'm going to push pause 1 second,
Yeah.
Cody. It's what I felt that you all did when you got up and you were sharing your listings. And I was thinking to myself, I want to go see you have a broker opening. I want to see your open house. You just made cookies, fried rice. Ooh, that sounds good. You created this energy, right, that made others, it wasn't just about, I have another listings. It was like, come together, come see it. You're doing connection beautifully.
Thank you. It's very hard.
Yeah, it takes
it's very hard.
intentionality and energy to do what you're doing, and yet it pays off. That's what we're finding. This shift towards connection pays off with financial performance. So that's cool. I forgot to mention that.
It was.
It works.
I mean, for this meeting, I mean, when I first got here, I was like, wow, this takes way too much time to put together. It's a lot. It's a lot of effort to do this well and to be creative.
And it's
because
worth it.
we think there's a secret sauce with it's spontaneous, it's entertaining,
It's
you
so
know,
fun.
Yeah, you know, you need some music. There's a lot of elements to make this not awkward, frankly, right?
And not just
Stell and
yeah.
Let's jump back to COVID, because I think that was interesting, but I personally feel like there's a dichotomy of, we felt lost in COVID, right? But now we feel lost on the other side too.
Correct.
Right? Where, you know, in some ways you were able to catch up on life. I felt more whole. I got my stuff together in a sense, even though like life was falling apart around. More time at home, you know, more reflection. How does that relate to where you're pushing us?
Yeah. So we had the great resignation during COVID as a result of what Cody was just referring to. So many of us said, oh my gosh, I'm not going to work for a jerk boss anymore. Not that that's what you were thinking. We had time to reflect is what I was piggybacking on your thoughts. We had time to reflect, like what does make me happy? What do I value? What do I want to do with my life? And with that came what we called, researchers, what we called the Great Resignation, where a lot of people said, I'm no longer working for a jerk boss, and I'm no longer working for a company that I don't believe in their values. This is BS, right? And so I've called it the Great Reprioritization of what really matters to you. And so what we're seeing is, and then you add in Gen Z, which I teach Gen Z. So you've got the older, they're not older, but the more experienced people saying, I want to make sure that I'm true to who I am. And then you have the younger generation saying, well, I don't want to work for a jerk boss or a company that pollutes or isn't good to people. You know, they're very values oriented, right? And so with all of this is why these shifts are so important. We have this addiction that's not going to go away with technology, right? We have the great reprioritization of experienced people saying, I know what I want in my life and I want to have meaning. And then you have the younger generation saying, I want to feel good about myself. And guess what? They don't want to be us. I'm Gen X. And here's what I've realized. And Brene Brown said this. So two of my idols are Hoda Kotb and Brene Brown. I'll tell you more about Hoda in a second. So Brene Brown's research on belonging and vulnerability and shame, and she's just freaking amazing. And at a recent talk she gave to a bunch of Gen Xers, so me, she said, y'all need to stop dissing on the Gen, what is it called? The 20-year-olds and the 25-year-olds.
Gen Z.
She goes, y'all have to stop dissing on the Gen Zs. And the audience is like, why? She goes, because you raised them. And they don't want to be like us. They don't want to be like you. What this is a reaction to what they saw. And they don't want to have burnout. They don't want to just work all the time for no reason. They don't want to report to jerk bosses and jerk organizations. So stop dissing on them. They're like, man, I want a different type of life based on what I've seen.
You have a lot of admiration for Marshall Goldsmith. He is not your age. How would you say his voice showed up in the book?
He is so not like me. He is not like I would get up and want to hug all of y'all. He's not warm and fuzzy. And that's why I needed his perspective. Or let me rephrase that. I wanted his perspective because he's at the top of the top, and he has seen some stuff. And so he doesn't... When he agreed to co-author this book, I expected that he and I would have weekly meetings, and we'd brainstorm and talk. I couldn't get on the dude's schedule. Like Marshall, I flew up to Nashville, and he showed me his neighborhood, and Taylor Swift, and all that stuff, and he's so proud. And then we sat there for a day and brainstormed seismic shifts, and so we outlined the book. So we did all of that in the beginning. And then I really did think that I would be meeting with him every week he would help me co-write this book. And I couldn't get on his schedule. So finally I called him rather than emailed him, can I get on your schedule? I called him. He answered. I said, Marshall, I kind of forgot to ask you, and this is in the book, a keystone question. How do you want this process to work? I just took a year sabbatical at Loyola. Do you want to meet every week? Heck no. Heck no. I agreed to this because I believe in you. I believe in your brand, and I believe what you're saying is true. You write the book, Michelle. You're the expert, and then I will come in based on my 77 years of experience, and I will add in my Marshallisms and my stories. And so that's what he did, which was such a compliment and an honor, right, that's how he chose to participate.
Oh, that's lovely. Let's jump back to the threat of remote work and AI. Is there a place for those? How scary is it? At one point we said remote work actually was productivity. It's been a roller coaster of sort.
Yeah, we haven't recovered yet from COVID. We haven't figured it out yet. One of the things we do know, particularly for women, is that flexibility works. Flexibility allows, particularly for women, to play all the roles that they play. And so the organizations now I'm struggling with, organizations who are mandating everybody has to come back to work from 8 until 5 days a week. I struggle with that. The leaders that I coach, like Pete November, the CEO of Ochsner Health, we had lots of conversations about this, and he decided not to mandate that you have to come back to work the way that it was during COVID. And he's allowing each leader in their division to come up with a model that works best, knowing that we do need face-to-face, like what I just experienced with you all today. That energy you can't recreate remotely. You can't do it. We need face-to-face, and we need flexibility. So I think the best practice is having the hybrid model of work a little bit from home, have that autonomy, that agency, be able to put on a pot of gumbo and do your laundry and maybe pick up kids from school and get your stuff done. And then you got to embed face-to-face connection, or else we will continue to wither on the vine and die. And let me say, I'm going to get your attention here. This is crazy. Dr. Vivek Murthy was the U.S. Surgeon General under President Biden. I read his book Together that he wrote during the pandemic, that we are withering on the vines and dying, that this is not good. Purely remote is not good for us. So he writes this book. Then he comes to it's not the Tulane Book Festival anymore. It's the NOLA, New Orleans Book Festival. So then he comes, and I get to see him talk. And he said, you realize that 1 in 5 of us is now disconnected, isolated, lonely, and depressed. And he said it's contributing to a 60% increase in early death. And I was like, Dr. Murthy, what does that mean? What do you mean? How? And he said, disconnection, isolation, and loneliness is the equivalent of smoking 16 cigarettes a day. So because of how we're feeling based on not being around each other much is causing a 32% increase in cardiovascular disease and stroke, which is contributing to all these premature deaths. So he, on stage at the New Orleans Book Festival, said disconnection is literally killing us, which is why I believe that you have to have hybrid. We need flexibility, and we need each other. We need both, which you all do it very well.
And that's easier in New Orleans, right?
How so?
Well, I went to ZC Top on Monday. We have all these events. Sunday we had 3 parades. On Saturday we had Crescent City,
What
Classic.
were the parades on Sunday?
Easter parades.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, didn't even know.
Yeah, Friday we had, I mean, it does seem easier here. I mean, have you thought about that? Is there a connection?
Oh my gosh, I just gave a speech with Tim Williamson at the New Society that New Orleans does connection better than any city I've ever seen.
Okay. All right, so we're on the same page.
We are so on the
Okay.
same page. It is so. That's why I asked, like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
And because of our calendar,
Yeah.
our festivals, our Mardi Gras. I gave this speech right after Mardi Gras.
Our porches.
Our front porch
Yeah.
living. My daughter is about to graduate from the University of Georgia. I convinced her. Actually, I didn't. She came to the conclusion herself that why would she want to live anywhere else? Because all of her friends were moving to Atlanta, Nashville, and Austin, and she's like, why would I live anywhere else? New Orleans is what makes me happy. And so she's coming back and working for the Saints. Woohoo! And so she just gave a speech in her big public speaking class on front porch living.
No, my first house had a terrible front porch, and I mean, it was truly like the criteria for the second one, and we'd spend stupid amount of time on the front porch. And this is how we know our neighbors, and this is how we feel connected, and now we hang out with her. It's an insane community that you can develop in New Orleans, which
if you take advantage
you can't
of it.
do that in the suburbs. You just can't do it.
Or in all these other cities where you're on highways
Yeah.
all the time, and then
Yeah.
you go through your gated community, and then you go down your long driveway, and you enter
Yep.
the house, and then
Yep.
you might be in the backyard looking at
Yep.
yourself. Yeah.
So you have coached all the way from Ochsner to Entergy to the Saints.
Yeah.
What is their common failure?
Ooh, Cody, that's a good one. What is their common failure? I met with a brand new CEO yesterday who isn't the CEO of any of those organizations. It's outside of our community. And he just had 360 done on him. So that's what you do when you begin an executive coaching relationship. You ask 20 of this executive's key stakeholders how they view his or her leadership. So then you're staring at 20 pages of data, which is usually like what you could do better. Not a whole lot of what you're doing well. It's what you could do better. So the biggest failure that I've seen, and I just saw it yesterday working with this gentleman, is, believe it or not, is they're focused on results, agenda, and they're not lifting their head up to even say hello. One of the comments in the feedback was, I'm the CEO's chief of staff, and he walks by me every day and doesn't even say hello. And so that does not create a positive environment where you're excited about going to work.
You link financial performance to connectedness. Like, how do you convince like a skeptical CFO that's a real thing?
That's another really good question. All right, so here's what I have figured out is if you could think of a pyramid, right? Patrick Lencioni talks about the 5 dysfunctions of teams. And I love his research. Well, he said the foundation is trust, that in order to have a high-functioning team, you have to have trust. And then you'll get all these places, right? And then you have all this great collaboration, and then that drives financial performance. What my research shows is we as human beings, as much as we would love to say, just trust me, just trust each other. If you don't have connection with each other, if you don't know each other's stories, where do you live, what does your front porch look like, come into my living room. I love Cody's living room, wherever that is. Let me get to know you as a person. If you don't know somebody truly and who they are as a human, you don't have trust and you don't have productivity or innovation, which drives financial performance. So I published a paper a number of years ago when I was still in the publisher parish mode that showed that if you are a leader who creates a positive environment, and speaking of which, one of the books right there on your little shelf that Cody put together, it's called Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg. And he talks about this. He talks about some people at the end of the day who are super communicators, they know whether you want to be, it's 3 H's. Do you want to just be heard? Do you want to be helped? Or do you want to be hugged? And I think that is fantastic. So the best communicators, the best leaders create these environments where when you come into my office, do you want to be helped? Do you want to be heard? Or do you want to be hugged? You create this positive environment that allows people to talk and be human. That's what drives financial performance. which is bizarre from a CFO's perspective, but in order to get those numbers, it starts the foundation of a positive environment. What creates a positive environment? Connection.
Core is the person.
So,
You go back a lot to Napoleon Hill, and I do a lot of reading with Napoleon Hill. And that quote just from Theodore Roosevelt, right? They don't know that you care until they know what you know. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You're going back to that.
Yes.
A lot of stuff you're saying really resonates with me.
Yes.
I started thinking about, I'm in my 50s, and I did a little talk on this the other day. I was about how I feel is that we have all these pushes every which way. You got your family and your personal life and your work life, but how the hell do you feel like you've done something, accomplished something? Because at the end of the day, you're always just looking at a list of what the hell didn't I complete. You don't really see the wins. So what you're saying I like that idea. Is with that, I'm going to have to read your book.
Thank you.
So let's make this practical for, say I'm a top producing agent and I feel like I'm awesome at a listing presentation or when I'm interacting with a buyer. What should our gut check be to know if we're actually like a connected leader?
Great question. So I want y'all to close your eyes for a second. Just close your eyes, and I want you to think about your best boss. Best boss. Best boss.
20-something years.
And just whatever image comes to your head, who was your best boss? Open up your eyes. I would imagine that your best boss made you feel seen, heard, valued, respected, and appreciated. That's the definition of connection. And best bosses, I do this with, as a matter of fact, tomorrow is the Benson Leadership Academy that I'm running, and we're in the third year for all of Gail Benson's companies, the New Orleans Saints, the Pelicans, all the dealerships, the real estate, everything. And we bring in the top leaders and run them through this Leadership Academy. And every time I do it, I give them 3 sticky notes, and I have them close their eyes, think about your best boss, open up your eyes, and on each sticky note, write the why. Why were they your best boss? What did they do? And then I have this huge Venn diagram, a big poster on the wall, and it's got 3 big circles. And the top circle is IQ, so that's your intellectual quotient, right? The right one is EQ, your emotional quotient, and the left one is FQ, your functional quotient. So how smart you are, how emotionally intelligent you are, and how much you know about your area. And so they all go up and they put their sticky notes on the Venn diagram. And guess what guess what circle has the most sticky notes? Is it because of how smart they are? Did any of you all think, oh, my boss was amazing because they were brilliant? They might be brilliant, but that's not why you thought they were amazing. Was it because they knew Excel spreadsheets better than anybody else? Nope, It's because how they made you feel. That's the best boss. So when you think about you in real estate, it's how do you make a buyer feel? How do you make a seller feel? How do you make somebody who's looking for their first apartment and you want to help them? You make them feel seen, heard, valued, respected, and appreciated.
Some people have heard me say this, given a tour of the office. We created a little library over here, and for me, not being from here, and like yourself, I'm like a lot of agents don't fully appreciate the architecture and history of New Orleans. And I'm like, how powerful would it be if you grabbed one of these books, checked it out for the day, and now in your listen presentation, you said, I found your home in the book. You may already know this, but I found this interesting. And gave a little bit of history and emotion. No, I mean, you'd give some of the history, emotion, or whatever architectural style about the property.
That's so cool.
Right? And that's emotional. You break through. Of course they know that. They've lived in that home for years, or they probably know that, right? And if they don't, they'll still be blown away. But it's
connection.
You're connecting through that property, and I just don't think your competition is going to do that.
I'd just like to point, you discuss teams, and, most people here are going through their minds, well, KW, we're a great team. We got a great foundation. We have a great team helping us. But flipping to our business aspect of it, the team is really you and the sellers. Then, once it goes under contract and you get to a certain point, the team is all of a sudden the buyer's agent, the buyer, the seller, and yourself. And what frustrates me in this business these days is people kind of take a back seat to it, from sending their photographer there without them being there, to, not getting back to the owners for simple questions. They just want to know that the process is working for them. And, every step of the way, just letting everyone on that team know that they're important to getting to the finish line. And as agents at Keller Williams, if you don't show up at your closing, I don't think you deserve the check.
Boom. Mic drop moment right there.
There's disagreement in this room over that.
Wait, Cody, where are you from?
West Texas, southeast New Mexico.
Gotcha. And when did you come here?
8 years ago. I had no roots here. I came here just because I wanted to.
What brought you here?
3 reasons. I was living in Chicago at the time. I was leaving active duty Navy. The first one was it was somewhere warm. Like Chicago's for the birds. 2, I knew I wanted to get in hospitality. And so I needed to go somewhere with a good hospitality tourism industry. And the third one was I had spent a lot of time in Dallas, and I didn't want cookie cutter America. If I was going to do hospitality, I wanted somewhere that had, the 5 layers of an onion that I think we have.
You chose us.
I chose, 100%. Yep.
How cool is that? I love it.
Yep, I wanted some grit, and it's delivering all its grittiness.
That's awesome.
Just really two last questions. The 7 shifts in your new book cover calendar and meetings, which are essentially time management reframes. Mm-hmm. Is connection at risk of becoming a productivity rebrand?
I don't think so. So, shifting your calendar. I've got a quote for you. Show me your calendar, and I will show you your priorities, and it might make you really uncomfortable. And this is what got me a connection series on NBC News. So I've been up there twice with Kate Snow getting interviewed on connection because of that quote. Because in our live interview, I said, Kate, show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities. She's like, oh God, no, don't look at it. Because the most important people in my life are not on my calendar. And she said, I need to change that. So I don't think it's just a reframe. It's a seismic shift. We've got to recognize that if it's not on our calendar these days, then it might not really be a priority. And I'll tell you a story that I write about in the book that's really embarrassing and very vulnerable. I was writing this book, and my college daughter, so she was a junior at the time, came home for Christmas. And she finally knocked on my studio door. I have a podcast that's, my office upstairs. And she said, Mom, I've been home for 2 weeks and I have barely seen you. And it gets worse. She goes, aren't you the expert in connection?
Oh.
I was like, oh, God, that really hurt. Now, in all fairness, I didn't expect her to be out every single night with her friends from 6 until midnight. I was working during the day. I expected to see her at night. And yet, she had a point. I didn't adjust my calendar to reflect that my one and only daughter, the biggest priority in my life, was home from college, and I didn't adjust my calendar, and she wasn't on it. And because she wasn't on it, I didn't prioritize her. So, no, I don't think it's just a reframe. I think it's an important shift.
Last question for me, and we'll ask 1 or 2 from everyone else. If you had to go back and tell young Michelle something about connectiveness, what would it be?
So forever, I tried to be somebody that I wasn't. I would embrace authenticity much earlier. I was always a super, enthusiastic person. And when I joined academia, I looked around and nobody looked like me at all, or was excited like I was, or like let's do sticky notes, let's do these role plays. Like, that's kind of my mindset. And everybody around me was, you take this piece of chalk and you lecture for hours and you lock the door if they're late. I mean, just bizarro. Probably like the military. They were like military drill sergeants.
We are bizarro.
They told me, knock them down and then build them back up. I'm like, I wish I wouldn't have listened to them. I'll be honest with you. I wish I would have had confidence to be myself back then. But I listened to them for years. I'm like, okay, and I'd march in and you'd lecture for it. And I got horrible teaching evaluations in the beginning. Why? Because I wasn't myself. I didn't play to my strengths. I wasn't authentic. And there's one thing as humans, we have BS meters. And we might not know why I don't trust you, but the kids were like, who is this? I was fake. I was trying to be somebody I wasn't. So when I finally said, I'm just going to be annoyingly enthusiastic at 8 a.m. And you know what? That's okay. And it worked. Thank goodness.
For some. No.
For some. That's true. There are some that still come back. They're like, too excited for 8 a.m. And now I have thick enough skin. I'm like, it's fine. It's fine.
Anything
it's
I didn't
fine.
ask you, I should have.
No, God,
okay.
those were
all right.
fantastic.
Any questions? Patrick?
We really appreciate you being here. This is very, very, appreciative in so many ways. You reminded me of something many years ago when I was just getting out of college, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this. I was told that we can really only do 2 of 3 things really well. And this is when you've moved on in life and you have a spouse, you have children, and you have a job. And you can only do 2 of those 3 things really well. What are your thoughts?
No.
I never liked it either.
The days of this is my professional self, my professional life, and my professional calendar, and this is the real me and my real priorities and my real calendar, and they're separate. Those days are over.
Yep.
There is one you, one day, one calendar, and one life. And so every day, like you said, running these meetings in the morning, it takes work.
Yep.
Every day it takes work to look at your calendar. Is it reflecting my priorities? Am I showing up as my best self? Am I putting my energy where I need to put it to be the best version of me, knowing everything that I have, my family, my kids, my this, my that, my job? It's you have to figure it out. And that's why that second chapter, when Elizabeth walked in my office and said, I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. Aren't you the expert in connection? I was writing the second chapter of Shift Your Priorities, thinking that the chapter was going to be, if you're going to be a great communicator and a great connector, you have to prioritize everybody else first. No, I learned right then and there, oh my gosh, no. You actually have to prioritize yourself first.
But what does that look like, though? Yeah, but
And what prioritizing yourself is I was saying yes to everybody and everything, and my calendar was everybody else. But me, and my first priority, me, and then my daughter was nowhere on my calendar because I was like, yes,
But say I give myself,
and then I'm burned out, and I'm grumpy, and I'm miserable, and my calendar does not reflect my priorities.
Let's say I give myself 4 hours a week. Like, I just want to work on Cody. What does that look like, though?
Exercise, eating well, lunch with people, bio breaks, family, dinners.
But don't you do that every day? I mean, like, I try to put that in my schedule.
Well, now I do. I didn't before.
Okay.
It was yes.
Last question. Right here.
Sorry, follow up to his. So I can remember when I was much younger in corporate, I was always uncomfortable with presenting anything other than my business self. To that point, do you think the world, our clients, business, are they more accepting of the need for us to present ourselves as full people?
Hallelujah, yes. The world has shifted, and we no longer want, perfection doesn't work. Perfection creates disconnection. So think about that. You try to be perfect and only present perfect and expect your people to be perfect, then I'm telling you right now, you're disconnected from yourself and you're disconnected from your people. So the shift has been, we want to see our leaders as fully human. They don't have all the right answers. Stop pretending you have all the right answers. Stop pretending you're perfect. Be human and see us as human.
That's lovely. Thank you so much,
Oh,
everyone.
thank y'all so much. I've loved this. Thank you. Thank you, Cody. That was
you.
great. You were an excellent interviewer. That was fabulous.
Let Jeffrey know.
Which book should I read first?
Seismic Shift in You, for sure.
Seismic Shift
That's
in
the
You.
brand new
That's
one.
the new
Yeah,
one.
because that just takes. I did, I think, a pretty good job of identifying that we needed to shift to connection, and I interviewed Todd Graves and Drew Brees and all these cool people to figure it out. So this is more research, like, okay, what does connection look like, sound like, feel like? And then this gives you the practical tips of how to do it.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
You're awesome.
You're awesome.
And we'll fly through the next part. I don't know if you can stick around. I'm sure people would love to chat with you, but I'll be as you got a meeting. All right. Oh, so here's the books and then the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Top.
Got a garage full of those books and just come by the house and pick them up.
All right, Nicole.
Amazon. I don't have to
There you go.
Thank you for coming. Oh my goodness. I was with my daughter at McGee. See? Connection.
Wait, did y'all get a picture together?
We need to. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Kimmy knows everybody.
Wait, your phone, when you send it, will you all send me all these pictures?
Yes.
You have to come
You
back.
don't even know what you've opened up.
You're a senior at Loyola. We have a Loyola person. Love you all.
All those online. If you could see the hugs in the room.
So I have to follow that.
Hey, Nicole, welcome to our meeting.
So I have to be hype, right?
There's sometimes the transition's way worse than this, I'll tell you. All right.
So, broker topic. Okay. So I was asked last week, can I advertise other people's listings? What do you think the answer is? Yes. Okay. With what?
No.
It would be nice to get
That's a great question.
You can. It's good business to speak with them first, but you can advertise their listings if you're saying presented by X brokerage.
However, you should ask for permission. Okay?
Yeah.
You have to acknowledge the listing agent because they're the one who is in contract. However, you definitely can, but I would highly recommend permission. And most listing agents will say, yes, market my listings, but then you have some that are upset about it. And we've had some complaints